popcorn. We are two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault. Are you not entertained? Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll talk about it. But I'm Eddie Collins.
Guys, I'm Justin Brown.
And we are Medium Popcorn. And folks, it's in the title. We're going to be spoiling the hell out of this movie. Gladiator II, the Ridley Scott directed sequel to the epic 2000 film Gladiator. We got Gladiator II. It took 24 years.
Mm-hmm.
And was it worth it? I don't know. I don't really think so. But Justin, what were your initial thoughts after we finally got the sequel that apparently everyone was waiting for?
Well, so here's the thing. I guess the first thing I gotta say about it is Denzel's cool even when he's dying.
He's the coolest motherfucker on the planet. When he came on, I don't know about your audience. When he came on screen, the whole energy of the audience changed. First of all, there was a lot of black people at my screening, which was kind of dope to see for Gladiator. I mean, there's action stuff, but there was like black folks like on date night, and like there was like a black woman with her mom and stuff like. And we were all just waiting for Denzel. And when Denzel showed up on screen, it was like, okay, now this is gonna get better, hopefully, because it's very inconsistent. But continue with your thoughts about Denzel.
Yeah, I felt like Denzel. Like he was, and I'm trying not to say this. It's like, yeah, Denzel's just the best part because he's the only black dude in this film that we care about. And
because the one brother dies real quick from the beginning.
What's that?
The one brother that's like in this movie that kind of has a role, like he dies within the first 25 minutes. So.
Yeah, then you have the other black, brolic ass black dude that's part of the team, the Gladiators, but we don't see him all that much. But so like, and I say this discounting that. The black effect of it. But, I felt like Denzel really did like kind of make this movie because he was the only one who was kind of interesting. Pedro Pascal's role was kind of meh.
It led to nothing really. Yeah. Like, I'm like, how do you have a dude like, it had to be cut. A lot of it had to be cut. Because Ridley Scott, he does like these long fucking movies and he releases director's cuts. Like, because there's apparently a 4-hour version of Napoleon.
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's fucking insane. But yeah, I thought the same thing. I'm like, how do you waste Pedro Pascal, basically?
And then the other fact is, I think, which really what makes this film a little bit meh is Paul Mescal.
Yes, greatly miscast. He's a really solid actor in a lot of stuff, but he was greatly miscast.
I think the fact he lacked the gravitas that Russell Crowe brought to this role, 24 years ago. And now, mind you, he's not playing the same character, but that same gravitas is needed to make this character interesting and to make it work. There was a level of intensity that he lacked. Which is hard to say because I don't think Paul Mescal is not a bad actor.
No,
but like
he's Oscar nominated. He's a solid dude.
But like there was something about his portrayal of Lucius. Here's my damn thing going off. His portrayal of Lucius that kind of just left something to be desired. And like, especially maybe, because he's a son of Maximus and, he's, all of this is just like, I didn't feel like this guy really wanted the world to burn the way that he was kind of, portraying it, with his character and story wise.
Yeah. I also think the biggest issue, and this is actually the story not setting up Paul Mescal for success.
Mm-hmm.
There was too many fucking callbacks to the original to remind us about. There was even literally like visual callbacks with Russell Crowe where you're like, you remember, the sand and shit like that. It was very Twisters vibe. Like, I roll my eyes a lot in this movie because
and then when old girl goes, she's like, Wait
Yeah,
a
Connie
second.
Nielsen, who still looks great.
Oh
Who
yeah,
still
she
looks
looks
great
great.
as the mom. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, there were so many moments where I was like, I rolled my eyes. I'm like, you guys are forcing this so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Paul Mescal, I think for me, it might have been the editing. I felt like he probably got a lot of shit cut because it ultimately the second half of the movie is Denzel's movie. Like I almost was forgetting about Lucius at one point. I'm like, isn't Lucius supposed to be the main character? Like, why are we barely seeing him? And then out of nowhere, he's just like, I'm like leading the revolution. And you're like, I don't buy that. I don't buy that all these people would like follow this dude. Yeah, he like bit into a baboon, which was pretty badass,
Yeah.
but that's not gonna like force me to follow you. Now, in Yuvia's research, she found that Timothy Chalamet, Miles Teller, Austin Butler, and Richard Madden from Game of Thrones had auditioned for the role of Lucius, but Mescal ended up making the most lasting impression on Ridley Scott, and so he was cast. Out of that list, I honestly would have gone with Richard Madden. I think.
I was hoping that you didn't say Timothy
Oh,
Chalamet.
of course not. Of course not. I really like him in the Dune role, but
I
I would
don't.
say out of that list, Richard Madden is probably the best. I don't know if that he I don't. I think it would just like to your point. I think it would have been really hard for anyone to follow in Russell Crowe's footsteps. It's such a
Yeah.
memorable role as Maximus. I mean, you're never him saying, I will have my vengeance in this life or the next is one of like the most iconic, badass like scenes in this genre, right?
Mm.
So for you to try to max, no pun intended, like meet that moment, it's hard. And like to Yuvia's point in the chat, like he won the Oscar for Best Actor for that role too. Granted, I don't think he should have won for that role. I think he should have won for The Insider. I think a year or two before. That's the best Russell Crowe performance. Like,
Yeah.
you could, and also Al Pacino. He was fucking fantastic. We should review that movie, Yuvia, The Insider.
Now,
Fantastic.
also that Chris Helmsworth actually approached Russell Crowe like in the pre development about like talking about this character and trying to make a second movie, and then like him and Russell Crowe kind of had like a big talk about it and whatnot. On it, like I especially after watching like Extraction and things like that, which I guess with Thor, I'm like I wouldn't hate seeing Helmsworth in this role. I don't know necessarily if I like he would be my guy, but like I think that you're right with Richard Madden is like the dude.
Because and he's got recognition. People remember him. Like he's done a few other things besides Game of Thrones, but Rob Stark and like he had gravitas. Like people bought that he would be the next in line to take over the Stark, like throne and stuff like that. I know you didn't really watch Game of Thrones, but
Yeah.
he does have that presence, but I don't know marketability if maybe or maybe really Scott. He chooses his people. He gets crazy performances out of everybody, like who he works with. But I the issue I also had with Paul Mescal is he was the only actor in scenes with Denzel that didn't really rise to the occasion of being in a fucking scene with Denzel.
Yes.
Like I love the two brothers because I think them being in scenes with Denzel made them raise their A game. Joseph Quinn and the kid from the White Lotus, what was his name? Fred Hedginger.
No, it's not.
They played Joseph Quinn and Fred Hedginger. They played Emperor Geta and Emperor Caracalla. They both like brought their shit. I feel like they both brought their A game in all their scenes because they were with Denzel for the most part.
And I gotta say they look weird as a motherfucker.
But that's how it's supposed to be, right? Like when we see the opening scroll, it's like these two emperors, these brothers are fucking destroying Rome, and they're out of their goddamn minds. And immediately as soon as we meet them, they're fucking cuckoo bananas. You got the one dude with the fucking monkey that he eventually promotes to power. You got Joseph Quinn over here just screaming about the gods are blessing us, and he's got the crazy ass eyes. And so I just really enjoyed those guys playing off of Denzel. I love Denzel with the one dude who was in debt to him.
Yeah.
And how he played those scenes. Like Denzel, yes, Denzel's being Denzel, but I texted a friend of the show, Chris Lambert. I was about to say Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us.
Imagine
Let's
if
get him on the show.
Imagine if I knew Thor this whole fucking time. I'm just like, I was just waiting for the right episode, baby. Well, I texted him. I was like, Denzel's back must be hurting from carrying this fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like when spoiler everybody, when he dies at the end, I was kind of like, oh, that sucks. Like it was the first time where I'm like, I kind of buy the people, like, this political climate. I don't want it to see happen because obviously I live in this world, I live in this country. But Denzel's approach to, like, Marcus's approach to be like, I'm going to destroy this shit. I want to see this shit fall apart and be destroyed.
I'm taking over. This is my time to rise.
Yeah. I was kind of like, I'm kind of into it. But at the same time, they let the black man be in power for what, a day? Before it all
if that. So, well, that's also the thing. There was just a problem with this, just tracking like how all of this. I don't know, man. Like,
the Lucia story didn't make any sense because we're basically they're saying that Connie Nielsen's character Lucia, after Maximus's death, like literally right after he's pulled out of the Coliseum and buried, that she takes her son and basically puts him into hiding because she's like, you're the rightful heir to the throne, so people are going to come and try to kill you.
Yeah,
right. And so then he's sent off, but then he's discovered at one place that he's living. So then he goes really far off the grid because he's in fucking he's in Africa at the beginning of this movie. He goes by what's his name? Arceus or some shit like that.
Yeah, whatever.
Arceus or some
Aurelius.
Shit. Yeah, Aurelius.
No, Hano. Because his real name is Lucius Verus Aurelius.
Yes. Because he's Marcus Aurelius's grandson.
Yeah.
And so it's very convoluted. And I was kind of like, man, they're gonna, from the beginning when he had this wife and they're going to battle against Pedro Pascal's army, because Pedro Pascal's the general. He's basically Maximus from the first Gladiator, like where he's fighting on behalf of Rome for his emperors, and he's taking over territories. And I was like, yo, they're gonna twist themselves into pretzels, trying to explain why this nigga was in Africa, how he gets back to Rome, and then revealing that he is Maximus's son. I think that because we talked about this when we reviewed Gladiator 1, we're like, are they gonna like retrofit this kid Lucius to be Maximus's son because of the timelines that they established in the first one?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I rolled my eyes, and then they had his armor, and they showed him, like, and they were like, "You're Maximus's son." It's like,
who's that name that's scratched off the wall? It's Maximus.
And then also, of course, there's rumors about Connie Nielsen's character at the beginning that they're whispering Lucia had lovers, and so because they didn't say that in the first one. They weren't whispering behind her back in the first one, but in this one they're like, oh, maybe Commodus is the dad or whatever the fuck, and they're just
no. There was, well, I guess it was a thing where everyone knew that her and Maximus had a thing at one point, but at the same time, it wasn't known that was his kid. We just found that out. We just found it out for sure, towards the end of it. But like, I think it was like,
they revealed that around second act, I would say, because remember Denzel's like, he sees her reaction when he was watching her reaction during the games. I was like, yo, Denzel makes the best faces.
Yeah, he's just like,
you can't imitate it, bro.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Well, I also ain't got that Cisco cut.
Yeah, I mean, everything. He had the rings. He had the different robes and shit. He was constantly changing. I was like, yo, he is feeling himself, and I love this for him. Lluvia in the chat's asking, does it make sense, though? Maximus was happily married and had a kid. So they're saying basically in the first one, his last dalliance, I think, with Lucia was right before he met his wife and then had a kid with her. So that's why Justin and I were saying when we reviewed the first movie, they could, in theory, make the timelines work where Lucius is his kid, but it's like, it'd just be annoying if that's how they did it, and that's exactly how they did it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, but like at the same time, I knew it. I knew it was like, because what I remember, I think it was in movie news. I looked up. It's like, oh, his name is Lucius. Oh yeah, so he's just good. like I knew it immediately once I saw it.
Well, once we saw that Connie Nielsen was coming back, you're like, okay, so that's her son. Therefore, it's this kid. Mind you, the actor that played the son is still out here kind of working as an actor. I don't think he could have gotten beefed up or being like he would have been good in this role, but it is a possibility that they could have done.
Yeah,
that I was just very annoyed. Okay, going back to Pedro Pascal, because I get it. He's probably like, yo, I get to do a Ridley Scott movie. It's a sequel to like epic film that's like revered. I get to work with Denzel again. But they didn't even complete his story arc. Like, why was Lucius so mad at this dude? Because they posit that he's the one that helped him escape in the first place, right? They never
Yeah.
quite show Pedro Pascal's face because I think he's just
No,
too
no, 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 no. He
old in
didn't.
the shadows, but it was the
No,
same voice though.
no. Because uh, he's mad at Pedro Pascal because essentially he's a reason his wife is dead.
Yeah, but all like it's war, bro. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
but still, like, but he's the figurehead of Rome,
mm,
right? And Rome, and because Rome is a shitty fucking place, they were going to kill him. So he had to leave. So he had to leave his whole life and his mother behind. Now this motherfucker's in Africa, right? And he's just, trying to live his best life. And then guess who comes over and then kills his wife and then rehomes him. And then he's now a slave. Rome. And
yeah.
so, this guy's a personification of like what Rome does. So it's like, of course, he's looking at him. He's like, yeah, motherfucker, I'm coming for you because you're the first representation of Rome in years I've had, and you brought all of this to my front door.
Got it. Yes,
So,
because
like, I get his motivation for hating him, but which also he's just like, I love your mother, and it's like, and I was, and I was a great supporter of your father, Maximus. He's just like, fuck.
I mean, this is after he's told, like, he's basically telling Denzel, "I'll fight for you if you give me an opportunity to fight Pedro Pascal's
Yeah,
character."
yeah. You
Right?
let me kill him. I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, Denzel puts him through the ringer. Like, as soon as he sees him fighting those baboons and stuff like that, he's like, "Ooh, this guy's interesting." Like, let me, because Lucius is captured. He's basically forced to be a gladiator and fight various things. He has to fight a pack of baboons, which that CGI is going to look terrible in 5 years. When we rewatch it on our HD TVs, it's going to look god awful. He had to
You
fight a
mean on like fucking 16K TV?
he had to find a rhino, a nigga on a rhino, which was insane.
Yep.
But
On a boat and they have sharks going through the water.
but there was just nothing about and unfortunately, again, it's the miscasting. There was just nothing about Paul Mescal, and I really enjoyed him and a lot of the stuff he's done. He did Normal People. He did After So Much. He was nominated for Oscar. All About Strangers, great performance. But I just didn't. I never bought that people in an army are going to follow this dude. He wasn't even jacked enough. Like physically, he looked like he was strong, but it just was different, man. It didn't hit me the same.
Yeah, I feel like we needed some bone structure. We needed some strong bones, some cheekbones, and a hammer jaw. I don't know. There was something about him that oh my god, what's the dude, that fucking white rapper, who they were fucking pushing down our throats?
Post Malone,
No.
Bubba Sparks.
No, the Jewish dude.
Oh, from a long time ago.
No. I actually I don't know if he's Jewish. No, I think he is Jewish.
Drake.
He was in White Man Can't Jump, the remake.
Oh, yeah. I don't want nobody. Jack Harlow.
Jack Harlow. I was
He did
getting
look like
like,
Jack Harlow.
huh?
He did look like Jack Harlow.
I was getting strong Jack Harlow vibes, from him.
Yeah.
But it's like it was kind of taking me out of the movie at points because I'm just like, why is kind of giving me Jack Harlow vibes? And it's just like, I feel like he's just not angry at the world enough.
Oh yeah, I mean, I apparently Barry Keoghan was initially cast as Emperor Geta, but then he had to drop off for scheduling conflicts, so Joseph Quinn stepped in, which I think that's a bit of a drop, but like Joseph Quinn did his thing. I think Joseph Quinn was actually really solid until we got that prop head, the decapitated head, that looked terrible.
Yeah.
But I actually was thinking Barry Keoghan because he's a fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
Right. But you also need some charm. Like Barry Keoghan is shark eyes. He's fucking terrifying, right?
He's got doll eyes.
Yeah, and Paul Mescal, like you're saying the rage, but then you have to soften that, and so I guess he plays the soften part good, but like I never, like you said, like it needs to be like he's almost a fucking feral animal after his wife dies,
So
and he's just wrecking shop.
This is the thing: is like you need to soften that, just like you said, you need to rage, but you need to soften that. But we need to have about 90% rage, and then you get soft pieces of him at certain in certain moments with certain people. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. I felt he was just a little too soft for a guy who's on a fucking who's in a bloodlust right now. Because, again, and, and it's hard because, like, you don't want to just compare this to the first movie over and over and over again.
They did it to us. Like, they literally kept reminding us of the
Yeah.
first one. Like, even the story beats were very similar in parts, but like they literally kept flashing back to moments of the first movie. You're like,
Yeah.
okay,
But,
thanks.
with that being said, Russell Crowe was a motherfucker. He played Maximus as like this motherfucker is all about just making people hurt. And then he sees this kid, and then you see a softer side of him because he's thinking about his fucking son. That's obviously dead. It's just like that's what made it was just like, oh yeah, this is his motivation. This is why he wants to destroy the world. With this character, I would have liked to see him just be a fucking monster. Also, so like you killed his wife, you took his mother away, then like he sees his mother and he doesn't really even show that it's just like, hey, mom, I understand why you sent me away. Right? It's like, I'm just mad at you. It's like,
yeah, that was such a bad scene when she's like talking to him and he's like, the son,
leave out.
like if the man you knew as Lucius, he's gone. I don't know who you speak of and stuff. I was just like, this is so weird. Like, this is such a weird scene.
Yeah.
Like, is he in direct denial? Like, I'm not Lucius anymore. Like, because if so, then we need to talk about how he went so crazy. He created this new identity, and he legit doesn't know who Lucius is. That would have been cool, but the kid was too old in Gladiator 1 to be like that insane, unless he mentally broke down, which is interesting. That could explain the insanity in his eyes. But then we would have had to see some hints of that, even with the wife, like a little bit of craziness, right? And I think that's a tall order for an actor to pull off, and for Ridley Scott to want to go this young, that's tough. I listened to a podcast the other day called The Town, and they were trying to come up with like actors under 35 that like are like hit makers that are like that can carry movies and are going to be really successful, have good careers, and they really struggle with men. They really struggle to identify guys.
So this is the thing. I know this is going to take us off. Yeah, well, let's not go too far, but like, I have a friend, the casting director. And we talk about a lot of, we talk together a lot about the industry and whatnot. And this guy's just like, yo, I see a lot of young actors and it's not looking good. And a lot of them just don't get it. He's like, I've seen a lot of talent over all my years doing casting. He's like, but the new crop of actors is horrendous. And part of it is like, they don't want to do the work. They're just like, I'm already a commodity. Like, I'm already a finished product. Is like, take me as I am. And like, I think that's something that we're seeing now filter into the industry a little bit more and more and more. And part of it is because of the influencer thing. But like, my man, he sends me like screenshots of just like bullshit. He's just like, there's a guy on a casting site that instead of his name, he has a ridiculous alias. I don't want to say it on here because I don't want to put too much information out there. He's just like, how are you supposed to be taken seriously professionally when you have this stupid name like this that you put on casting sites? Is like, oh, I did my audition with my bottom grills in, but you could take them, but they can be taken out. Then why didn't you take out your fucking grills if you're you're going for a role? It's like, these are the things that these young actors are doing, which I think it's like, and we went to that actors that a meetup a while ago, and I remember having a conversation with an actor, and I was just like, bro, I'm trying to give him advice because the things he was saying, I'm just like, this is completely against everything that's going to make you, successful.
Yeah.
And it's like, but they're just like, oh no, I know what I'm talking about. Like, no, you don't. When somebody who's been doing it for a while is telling you, hey man, this may be a bad idea. And they're just like, nah, bro, I would but this, I think we're getting far more of that. And I'm not saying that Paul Mescal is an actor like that. I'm saying it's like, but just to that point, is just like with these young actors, is male actors especially, it's like, bro, it's not looking good from everything I'm seeing.
World. It's a different world, and I think it's unfortunate, right? Because if I could have a time machine and pull an actor from let's say even the '90s to play this role, it would probably be like a Val Kilmer or something like that. You need someone who's a little crazy who can pull off the physicality, but also like the charm that's needed for this role. And it also wasn't a greatly written role. Like I think that's what I appreciated so much about Denzel working on this is that role, Mark Mark Renus, or I'm sorry, folks, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but that role could have easily gone to a white dude, right? Or like, a European dude or something like that. But it's such a meaty role. And the fact that Ridley Scott was like, let me call in Denzel for this. I haven't worked with him since American Gangster. Like, let me see if he'd be interested in this. That's like, that just elevates the material and that elevates that role. I don't know if Lucius was actually written well.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also a detriment to Paul Mescal's ability to be successful in it as well.
I think the pronunciation of that, and I may be wrong here, is Macrinus.
Okay, I mean, I kept thinking Denzel.
Yeah, Macrinus.
I just kept thinking Denzel. I mean, every scene that he's in, it brings the movie to another level. And like when he ascends to power after helping kill Emperor Geta, because he turns the brothers against each other at one point, because Rome starts turning against them. I mean, and then he's hugging the throne, like he's rubbing the throne chairs and stuff. Like he just does these interesting things. Where I was like, Denzel is just in the zone in this movie, and like if he doesn't get the Oscar, he's definitely gonna get a nomination. But if he doesn't get the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, I don't know what to tell you because I've seen Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain. It's good, but he's doing exactly what he did in Succession. Denzel is just he shows you why he's one of the biggest fucking movie stars and why there will never be another Denzel. Yeah. Like I honestly I got a little sad at the end of this movie because I'm like, Denzel's been doing a lot of interviews where he's like basically saying like I'm in the last half of my career.
Yeah.
Like I got a few projects lined up. One of them is Black Panther 3, which is incredible. Which we've been talking about, like, how is Denzel not in this? Yeah. But it's kind of sad because you're like, they don't make him like this anymore.
Yeah.
There's just not another. And as much as people are trying, there's just not another Denzel. And I'm okay with this, like, being one of the last great Denzel roles, right? Like that reminds us like what a fucking movie star looks like.
And the crazy thing is Denzel turned 70 this year. Like I forget that Denzel is of the age that he is because I believe he's skewed so young and he's just he really has a young at heart kind of feel to him. And it's the respect and everything that comes, with being an acclaimed actor, at his age. But on December 28th, this man turned 70 years old. Yeah. It's like, yo, we gotta fucking, love on this man as much as we can, because we don't have him for all that long.
I do want to shout out actor Derek Jacobi, who played Senator Gracious, who was in the fucking first Gladiator and is in this one. He's reprising his role as part of like the Roman Council or whatever. He looks exactly the same as he did 24 years ago. That was wild. And he's 86. And I was just like, good for this guy.
Yeah.
I was like, good for him. Like, still out here.
Way to keep it together, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, hold on. To answer Yuvia's questions in the chat, she goes, "Were the fight scenes cool like the first one?" I felt like they did have some good fight scenes. I don't think that they were necessarily as gory as the first one, which I was kind of okay with.
Yeah, it felt fake, like faker. It felt like less like prosthetics and stuff like that than the first one.
I actually would say I think that this was it felt a little bit more over rehearsed. Okay. You know what I'm saying? The first one had more of a gritty feel to it.
I'm sure the unions were involved in that. I'm sure the unions were involved in that. This is 24 years after the first one, so I'm sure there's more regulations on filming these fight scenes. They're probably like, hey Russell, you're really fighting a tiger. Russell's like, what? Survive. Ridley Scott's like, survive.
Action. Somebody get me a pint.
I mean, they even had a tiger in a cage at one point as a callback, and I'm like, guys, stop remembering me, like
Yeah.
reminding me about a better film. Like that's just such hubris. Like it felt like they were like kind of like, hey, look at us topping the first one, like with this shit, huh? It's great, isn't it? And I'm like, it's not because you guys keep reminding me about the better movie. Like,
Yeah.
stop it. Like, stand on your own 2 feet for this.
So Lluvia said in the chat, they did have a lot of filming issues with one of their main actors dying and having to reshoot and the cast being tired. Wait, are we talking about this film or are we talking about the original film? The first, okay. I was like, wait a second. I'm like, we would have heard about that.
I told you, yeah. The first one was that's a different world, man. That was, and remember, they started filming that probably in like late 1999 or not that 99, but 98 and
Yeah.
shit. That's back when things were wild. I mean, yeah, I mean, I still, I just listened to a podcast about Scream. Apparently, when Ski Ulrich gets stabbed with the umbrella by Nev Campbell's character, that's like a real thing. Like, he actually got stabbed. I was like, they didn't have proper umbrellas. It's the 90s, baby. But that's
you stabbing niggas, baby. All I need is a stage.
But to your point, I mean, I'm sure Paul Mescal did a lot of stunts that he could in Saving Pedro Pascal, but it did feel like a lot of quick cuts and like cutting around people.
Well,
Like
but that's the thing is, again, is because and now just me being the fight the guy, just critiquing some of the fight scenes for this guy who is just like, the fucking the monster under the bed, right? He was getting he was getting a little ass whooping, pretty a little too often for my liking. To
yeah,
the point where I'm just like,
thing.
if Maximus died in his campaign, to fucking, for vengeance, this guy definitely would have died. He's not surviving.
Yeah, like even like the first one against like in front of the emperors, like when they're having like that banquet or whatever, and Denzel brings him, he fights the dude like around all the tables and stuff like that. He's getting whooped. I mean, he eventually comes out victorious for obviously because otherwise the movie ends at 45 minutes. But it did feel like the way that the character should have been played, especially for the first like 2 acts, should have been like he's so fucking crazy. If we die, at least we die with a dude that like was fully driven and fully believed like in what he was doing. You know what I mean?
Honestly, though, I think so I'm trying to think that Maximus in the first one, he didn't have that whole like, I'm down on myself and just like I just want to die. Like fuck this shit. I'm not playing ball, right? I think that would have worked here.
Well, he kind of did. Remember at the beginning, like he fights the baboons, but like Denzel's trying to talk to him and stuff, and he's just kind of like trying to be resistant.
Nah, bro. I'm talking about on some shit. It's just like he lost his wife. He's in slavery. His boy decides like, yo, I ain't gonna survive this shit. I'm not even gonna try. And then the baboon rips his neck out, whatever. Like, yeah, he's fighting for survival. And then, honestly, if you watch the first fucking season of Spartacus Blood and Sand, I think that's where he needed to go. More of like, is like, he's kind of depressed. Like, he doesn't want to be here. He's done. He's done with all of this. Is just like, what am I fighting for? Why do I give a fuck? I lost my wife. I've, like my whole life has just been, me just being dehomed and just unstable. Right. So fuck it. And then he sees his fucking mom. He sees that fucking dude there. And he's just like, oh, wait. So this bitch is with the guy who came and destroyed my life? You know what? Fuck all this shit. So then when he puts him in that room, they're like, okay, you got to fight this guy. Like, he takes an ass whooping at first. And then eventually something triggers him where he's just like, you know what? Okay. And then starts fucking people up. And just start fucking people up all throughout this movie. And then you got to hurt him at some point to pull him back a little bit to be like, oh, everybody else has a chance. But that's the thing that's going to rally other men around him. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy needed to be on fucking demon mode. But like, I never got that from that character. And I felt like if they gave me demon mode, I've been like, okay, this nigga's fucking good. He's coming to eat.
One issue I had with this movie, besides what we're talking about with the miscasting of Paul Mescal, is you have a lot of folks giving speeches and announcements in the Coliseum in Rome. Have you ever been to the Coliseum, Justin?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It's one of the biggest fucking things I've ever seen in my life. And it's an open space, it's open air. And you
Yeah.
got niggas just like, pay attention, everybody. The games are happening. Who's going to hear you? You know what I mean? It's movie magic. I get it, but they did the same thing in the first one. But
Yeah.
I just thought about it. I was like, wait, that's annoying. Like there's no way that people will be able to hear Paul Mescal's like fucking victorious speech and shit, or Petra Pascal being like, we must fight for Rome and what it used to be, blah blah blah. I was like, shut the fuck up. I
So,
did.
and being that you've been to the actual site of where it's supposed to be, what is like how big is that space? Because I always thought that the Coliseum, it was a lot smaller than I expected it to be.
It is. I can't even describe how big it is, and it's not even like fully complete anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a former picture of
It's a
itself.
relic of its
But
yeah.
but like I went on a tour, and this is like years ago. I was in fresh sophomore year in college when I went to Italy for the first time. And it's beautiful. And the cool thing about what this movie did, even though it's executed terribly with the CGI, with the sharks and stuff like that, is that when we went in the catacombs, they actually talked about how they used to flood them and do boat battles.
Yeah.
And I was like, how? Like, Sway, like, how would you do that? Because even Tati, when she saw that scene in the trailer, she's like, get the fuck out of here. I'm like, no, that's legit. Like, that's like they used to actually do that shit. They used to flood it.
Yeah.
And so seeing that, like, actually depicted was pretty dope. But it's insane, like, dude, like the massive scale of it, and like just the architecture and the fact that people built this thing. Like, there's times when like, I get really down on, like, humanity and the world and stuff like that. But then you see things like that, like, it's beautiful, man. Like, I remember, like, I was taking the train. I keep saying beautiful lately because I'm trying to be more like I'm trying to be more upbeat lately.
No, I'm not. I'm not laughing. I didn't laugh at that. I'm laughing at the fact it's like, yeah, humans. We put this together. I mean, yes, through slave labor.
Yes, yeah. I'm not saying it was like I'm not saying it was like done like with union approval or anything like that. But it's incredible, like the things that man has made. You know what I mean? And like, granted, it was also made for like the entertainment of people through death and blood and
Yes.
carnage and stuff. But like, it's still nonetheless, it's very impressive. And so, uh, it just, I think it was a question that we asked before we even started recording, which was, why did they have to do this? Why, like, this is one of those legacy sequels that doesn't justify its existence
Yeah,
at the
it
end of the
wasn't
day.
necessary.
Besides having Denzel having an amazing, incredible role, but we kind of could have put this in a different thing if we really wanted to. It just really doesn't. For it's 24 years later, and then the movie ultimately takes place 12 years after, 16 years after the first one, and this timeline.
Yeah,
I was just like, I wish I cared more. And actually, at the end of the day, because of what I'm getting, I actually like kind of seeing the destruction of Rome, because Rome falls. That's a historical fact, right?
yeah,
The fall of Rome. So I thought we were legit seeing that
yeah,
in this movie. I was like, oh, dope. Like, it's going to end with Denzel kind of getting into power, but shit goes, it falls apart because his brother's
yeah,
in charge. But I'm like, I'm down to see that. I'm down to see like a dark ending. But no, they had to do the heroic Lucius kills him, and like all the, like, it was such a, and that fight was so whack because that Denzel has a stunt double. There's no way he's able to do the
yeah,
horse riding and fighting. And I was like, I get it, but it was just such an anticlimactic ending to the film. And that fight, the idea of the one emperor brother, Emperor Caracalla, taking over, instilling power to the monkey friend that he has, and then Denzel, and then he's basically like, I'm gonna go play over here, because they said the brother implied, Joseph Quinn's character implied that he had syphilis that
yeah,
was starting to impact his brain, which we know
yeah.
that that's a thing. And
Hmm.
so I was like, but it was so random. He just threw it out as a quick line at the beginning of the third act, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
Whereas, his makeup, to be fair, you mentioned this earlier in the episode, you've talked about they looked insane. Uh, Emperor Caracalla particularly looked fucked up. Like, he had
yeah,
like extra cake of makeup on. So it makes sense now because he was all fucking, his body was rotting because of this
yeah.
sex disease and shit.
Um. So, I think one thing, it's being that, this is a Denzel movie. And, there were people, especially in the area of like Algeria, which were not happy about the blackwashing of a historical, character, arguing that Macronus was not a sub-Saharan was not of sub-Saharan African origin. And like, it's just kind of thing is just like, y'all do this all the time. It's like, because they wanted to put the fucking great Denzel Washington in this film. You guys are getting all upset. The great Denzel fucking Washington. But, at the same time, and then there's also a thing because he had a twinkle of bisexuality that was actually deleted from the film.
Yeah, and here's the thing, folks, and I know I know people have their religious views. I know people, things can make them uncomfortable, what have you. You got to get comfortable with seeing like bisexuality or homosexuality depicted in art. You just got to it's 2024. We're about to go in 2025. Yes, in my opinion, we're taking a few steps backwards, but you just got to get used to that. These people exist. They existed throughout all of history. Get over it. If you don't like it, turn off the channel, but you don't have to go on your little phone and complain because no one really cares about what you have to say about it.
Especially when we're talking about ancient Rome, ancient Greece, and all that kind of shit. Them motherfuckers were fucking anything that moved. So it's just like, there's bisexual people. Guess what? It happened. That's historically accurate. The fact that you're acting like it doesn't exist is actually more inaccurate to the full scope of the world. Like, chill out.
It shows how uneducated you are about anything. And here's the thing too. If you really give a fuck about what Ridley Scott's doing with his movies, you would know he doesn't care about being historically accurate. We talked about that in our Napoleon review, which is on Patreon, patreon.com/media popcorn.
Yes, indeed.
Where he did not give a fuck about people having French accents.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix sounds like Joaquin Phoenix in that movie. Like he clearly doesn't care. He cares about entertainment. That's what he cares about. And the one thing that we got that was definitely entertaining in this movie is Denzel. Without Denzel, folks, this movie is barely the hit that it is. I guarantee you, like, if they surveyed the audience that came out opening weekend, as of this recording, this movie's made $60.6 million in the United States, off a $250 million budget. So it's got a lot of ground to cover. But I would say at least 40%, if not more, came because of Denzel.
Yeah.
Because he's still a box office draw.
Yeah.
So shut the fuck up. Unless you want this movie to fail.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta have some kind of guarantee that's gonna make money. You know what I mean? And it's frustrating when you hear stuff like that because you're just like, you don't know anything about what's going on, like how these movies get made.
Yeah, the business aspect of it. Yeah. There's so many things that you're neglecting by saying it's just like, there weren't like African, Saharan people in it. It's just like, well, I don't know what to fucking tell you, bro.
Also, remember, they've been taking slaves. Denzel's character is a former slave.
He's a former slave. No, he's a former prisoner. He's a former prisoner turned gladiator, and he won his fucking freedom through that. It's like, so people like Denzel, who this was an actual thing. And just that's the thing, is like, there were Africans in Rome.
Yes.
Like, yes, what this guy fucking Macronus Macronus was likely he wasn't of African descent. It's just like, but none of this stuff is actually real. They're just using names.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, so there is no historical accuracy to any of this shit.
Yeah, his name probably Africa was like Tulu the Great Warrior or some shit like that. Like, it's not. This is all, and also at the end of the day, this is all play pretend, fucking fantasy shit.
Yeah,
calm down. You know what I mean? Lluvia in the chat's asking, would you recommend watching it in theaters? I was about to watch it before this to avoid spoilers, but this review is making me wait till streaming. I would say watch it in the biggest screen you can. I watched it with a fun audience. Like, we were all like rooting for Denzel. It was kind of like a Killmonger situation. Yeah. Like, fucking take it all down, bro. Who gives a fuck? I mean, it's like you got this one nigga in power. You finessed it to get this one nigga in power that believes in a monkey. So you played the game right, bro. After blackmailing other people, where he got the one up on like Pedro Pascal's character and like Connie Nielsen trying to stage a coup against the brothers and shit. Like he had the inside track on everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, I want him to win. He did the work. He manipulated Paul Mescal. He did all these things. He played even with the revolution, the uprisings happening, it surprises him. With the gladiators, it surprises him, but he's still like, I can get out of here. He's like, I don't even think he had to flee. All he had to do was take out Lucius. He took out the mom, but all he had to do was also take out Lucius, and he would have been good.
You know, it's kidding me. He saw him going, Lucius going up there to release it. He's like, give me an arrow.
That was
snap. He's like, gotcha, bitch.
Even though that death scene was so, I rolled my eyes again. Like there were so many scenes where I was just like, man, this is really bad. Like that death, like when the mom dies and on the whatever the pole or whatever, and Lucius is like, it reminded me of when Homegirl died in Starship Troopers. In Casper Van Dien's arms, except she didn't say some shit like, at least I got to have you or something like that. But it was still it was still bad. I was like, Connie Nielsen, you're a better actress than this. Like, what happened?
What you call it? When also Pedro Pascal, took all them fucking arrows.
Oh, that was wild, dude.
I was just like, so you're telling me that everybody's got perfect fucking aim and nobody just hit Lucius right there? And like you saw when arrows like fly from behind him and hit him and stuff like that. I'm like, you telling me all like 10 of these niggas just fucking cued in on this motherfucker and killed him that quickly and nobody was off the mark and fucking snatched Lucius' fucking wig off?
That's true. What? They would have at least he would have got one in the shoulder or something. Yeah.
Yeah, come on, baby.
For sure. Even though that was the only strong scene of Paul Mescal's performance, which was when he said, "This is how y'all treat your heroes. Look at what they're doing." That was the only scene where I was like, okay, I can get why people would start fucking with him because he's right. He's like, they just executed like y'all were praising a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
They literally put like 12 arrows in his body, which is wild because that's not even the worst death that Pedro Pascal's had on screen before.
Yeah.
Because you didn't watch Game of Thrones, so you don't know how his character went out, bro. No. It's one of the most brutal deaths I've ever seen on TV, man.
Did they cut his dick off?
No, it's
okay.
It's
not wasn't that bad.
It's not no, but he gets his head squished in like a watermelon. It's fucking nuts.
Niggas die every day, B.
Are you about to say niggas be every day, B?
No, niggas die every day, B.
Okay, you still almost said
he's tough.
Did I tell you my friend Sid randomly has a mural, like a original art done from that scene in Paid in Full, and he had no idea what it was from. I just went to his apartment in Long Island City, and just this big ass is almost the whole wall. I'm like, Sid, what you like Paid in Full? He's like, what's Paid in Full? I'm like, why do you have this dope art of 3 niggas on your wall? It's so insane.
It's such a specific scene.
I was like, I fuck with it, but like, Sid. I was like, what are you doing? He was just like, I really like the art. I was like, okay. It's so weird, right?
Man, I thought that was what's happening.
If you could have saw my face when he asked what's Paid in Full, I would have
like, oh, what?
Yeah. So we did get a Patreon thought on Gladiator 2. And remember, folks, if you subscribe at patreon.com/mediapopcorn, you're guaranteed to have your thoughts and reviews that we were talking about right on that episode. So Sean the Terrible wrote, wasn't a great movie, but definitely a great movie going experience. Joseph Quinn definitely got next. Okay. So Sean the Terrible, folks, if you haven't listened to a previous episode, he usually hates everything that he comments. So this is about as good of a positive review from Sean that we've ever gotten. I agree. Joseph Quinn, I was underwhelmed by him in a Quiet Place day 1. I was kind of like, all right, Stranger Things, he was on the up and up. Quiet Place, I was like, I don't know. Maybe that was a fluke. This one, I was like, okay, he's got something here. Like, let's keep it going. I'm interested to see what he does with Johnny Storm and Fantastic Four. I hope they use him and fucking Pedro Pascal a lot better than they did in this. I mean,
listen, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, it's all about the script.
Yeah.
It's really all about the script.
But, I mean, that's the thing too with Pedro Pascal. It's like it's weird because when I see him, I don't think he's a movie star. I just think he's a great actor. Does that make sense?
I
Like he's not like someone who I would be like there opening weekend to see it in a movie, but like every time I see him, I feel like he's gonna do his best. He's gonna do his damn best to give you a great performance.
so what you're saying is basically like he's a really good actor, and like look, he's great at his job, but he's not a needle mover.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I could see that.
Like
I could
he's
definitely see that.
reliable and audiences are like feel very comfortable with him because he does such a variety of different projects,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think when he's got name recognition, but it's not to the point where like people are like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna see everything Pedro Pascal does. I
Yeah.
think, if they're watching TV or they're going to the movies and Pedro Pascal happens to be in it, they're like, oh, nice. You know what I mean? It's like one of those kind of
But you know what though?
performers.
That means that he's on the cusp of becoming a bigger star. Mainly because at one point Denzel was in that spot.
Mm. Yeah.
You know?
I mean, he got the ultimate compliment from Denzel. Denzel said
That's right.
he's one of the best. He's a better actor than I am.
Mm.
That's a huge. I mean,
He's like, this guy can fucking act.
Pedro Pascal has been doing the work for a long time, and I'm so glad for the past, like I would say, 8 years or so for him. Like and he does all these different projects. He's in big, tentpole projects like the Mandalorian. He's going to be Reed Richards, which is a huge deal if you know anything about that character in Marvel as a whole.
Yeah, how important he is to the whole.
So it's just like okay, like I can't wait to see him and Robert Downey Jr. going toe to toe together.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's going to be really interesting to see. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like he was wasted in this. But like, he did have moments to shine. I think the people that I was surprised by how bad they kind of were. Connie Nielsen, I thought I don't know if it was the material she was given or she just didn't really like want to be there. It was not good.
She wasn't given that much.
Just like
honestly,
a little mopey.
She wasn't given that much.
Yeah, it was not good, man.
And most of her stuff was just like, "Oh, my son! Oh, my boy!" I've got her husband. Wasn't it her husband, or is like
Pedro Pascal was her husband? Yeah.
Okay. Oh, my husband. Oh, my son. It was like they literally regulated her to like the damsel in distress role, which she even though. In a way, it was kind of similar, but she had far more to do in the first one.
Absolutely. She had way more agency.
Yes. Even though she was a little bit of that because of Joaquin Phoenix was fucking nuts.
Yeah, and I think that's what was cool about what the brothers did as emperors is that they did a different thing. They could have easily tried to copy Joaquin Phoenix's crazy ass, but they did crazy in their own unique way. Like I wish we had learned more about how they ascended to power as brothers, but like I got like people being afraid to fuck with them. It kind of gave me like when Trump finally starts losing his marbles, like dementia wise, like he's gonna be acting like that, like the Mad King kind of vibe. You know,
honestly,
what I
mean? What I was getting from was Joseph Stalin,
especially from Joseph Quinn's character, right?
Yeah. So like, and guys, if you don't know anything about Joseph Stalin and the way he literally had like, gone mad, and like everyone was afraid of him to the point where he had a heart attack, a stroke, and nobody wanted to touch him because it's like, if you touch him, he could turn and say, oh, it's because of you, and he'll kill you. Is like that motherfucker was beyond crazy, and everybody knew it, and it wasn't a goddamn thing you do. Look up Joseph Stalin, and you'll understand like how much of a problem that guy was.
I love Joseph Quinn's character's reaction when Lucius, after he wins the battle, like in the hall, whatever, against that one fighter, and he says like the gates of hell are open night and day and things like that. Mm-hmm. And Joseph, it was interesting because like yes, these two brothers are clearly out of their goddamn minds, but like. There was like a twitch in Joseph Quinn's eye where it was like he knew what this nigga was saying to him, but he's also like, "I'm interested in you, so I'm gonna keep you around." But I love like that little moment where it's like, "Oh, so this dude is well read. He's not a complete dummy, the Emperor."
Yeah,
but it's also like he's like, "But let me see what this is about before I like execute him," because he's also telling like, "Do I just kill this motherfucker right now? Because I can't." Yeah, I can't for my own entertainment. I can just kill you. I love that. I love that dynamic, and I wish we had more of that stuff versus all this forced callback replay shit of Gladiator 1, man.
Well, and then that's and to the point that you just made, he's like, oh, isn't that the poet from the other night? He's just like, I don't remember. That whole night was a haze,
Oh
but
yeah,
that
the other
just
brother,
shows like
yeah.
how much how gone he was.
Yeah. I mean, they were both hammered. They were both like
Yeah.
out of their fucking minds.
Well, and not even. I don't think it's necessarily the hammered aspect of it. I just think the fact is like the syphilis and yada yada yada. Rotting their brains. Like they just weren't all there.
Yep. Listen, before we get to our rating, all I'll say is Russell Crowe wanted to come back and somehow bring Maximus back from the dead. Bro, you dodged a bullet. If this is what they've been working on for 24 years, you good.
And bro, you didn't want that gym time.
He can't do it.
I've seen you recently.
Yeah, he can't do it. He can't do it. But Justin, break down our rating system, baby.
Stop calling me baby. So, guys, you know how we do this. We rate movies bags of popcorn, small, medium, large, and the XL for the exceptional. If a film doesn't deserve any hot, buttery popcorn, we throw it into the stale popcorn pile. We pile piles and piles of stale popcorn on the top of it. So, Brandon, we watched the 2024 release of Gladiator II, the epic action film starring the one, the only Denzel Washington, Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Joseph Quinn, Connie Nielsen. What say you, sir?
This gets a medium, despite all my negative criticism of this film. This gets a medium solely because of Denzel's performance. He is so strong in every scene, and you can literally see him elevating the performances of everyone around him. That it's undeniable. I can't give this a small or a stale popcorn. I just can't do it because he's that damn good, and it's such a memorable role. I'm gonna be rewatching clips of Denzel just from this movie. I'm never gonna rewatch this whole movie, but I'm gonna rewatch it for moments. I'll rewatch moments for the Denzel stuff because he just was having so much fun. He's a great villain, and I hate that two of his Oscars might be for villain roles. I really don't. That doesn't quite sit right with me. But he always plays complicated characters. He always plays complicated characters.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but we've said on the podcast before, the villain is the most important part of any movie.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that he wins those Oscars for the villain roles because the villain is the person who sets up the whole fucking story.
Absolutely. And a great villain that lasts a lifetime. I mean, I connected with someone over the weekend randomly because of my Heath Ledger tattoo. He had a fucking Heath Ledger tattoo, Joker as well. We're just and we talked for 5 minutes about how great a villain that is. That can have such a huge impact, unfortunately, more than a hero, which is probably why we're in the current state that we are as a world. But Justin, what's your rating?
Actually, I was going the same thing in a medium. Regardless of the fact is I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the portrayal of Lucius. And I felt like the fight scenes were a little bit muted, especially in comparison to the first one, and just other this kind of period pieces that I've seen in many years. I felt you had Denzel giving a strong performance. The fight scenes, while they weren't as ferocious as I wanted them to be, they were epic. And I think the epic scope of this film, and yes, the story dragged a little bit, but it also doesn't take away from the fact is it looks great. You do have a great actor just fucking just just eating all throughout this film, and it's just you do get some really cool visuals. And I know like you said earlier, they follow kind of some of the same beats, oh yeah, instead of tigers we're gonna have fucking baboons and shit like that, and in that case I kind of do wish that they did more with those baboons. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I mean, I thought they looked terrible, but I understand.
No. I'm talking about had those baboons really rip some niggas apart, because baboon you don't not want to fuck with a baboon.
I know. Every time a baboon,
you know what I'm saying? It's but let the other than the baboon just tearing at homeboy's neck. You know what I'm saying? Show set it up, show the true power of what a baboon could do to a human being. You know what I'm saying? So it's you have to build that up, which will then build the character of Lucius.
Fair.
So but at even with that, it was like it was a fun watch. Like it was a fun watch. It's just, I thought that this could have been a lot better if they gave us a little bit, if they focus a little bit more on the story and they actually got some people, kind of in the action realm to really help out with this, to give it that, that fury that you needed for a film, for a revenge story like this.
Oh. Well, there you have it, folks. Our review on Gladiator II. Hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, leave us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast application. And you can follow us at Medium P Podcast on all social media platforms. Be sure to go to youtube.com/Medium Popcorn. Push that subscribe button so you get alerted about all future reviews and celebrity interviews we have on the show. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Frodo_Blackens on Instagram and Threads, or just Frodo Blackens on Blue Sky. That's where I be at most of the days. And Justin, if people want to follow you as well as support the show financially, what can they do, my brother?
Well, guys, you can follow me at J Brown Did It on all your social media platforms. But if you want to support this show, you know where it's at. Patreon, patreon.com/medium popcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages. Our entire backlog is on Patreon. We have so much bonus content. Guys, Patreon is just really where it's at if you want more medium popcorn. And again, that is patreon.com/medium popcorn.
Get some more butter in your life. All right, y'all. We hold you. We love you. We squeeze it tight and we say, I'm sorry I let you go. I'm sorry I sent you away. But now you're back 16 years later and you're ripped and you smell like Old Spice and you're rubbing sand just like your daddy used to. And you're going to die just like your daddy used to. But I love you anyway.
Good night, sweet prince.